The UFC is in total shambles as Jon Jones asks for his UFC release. Tom Aspinall, of all people, comes to Jon Jones's defense alongside with the White House card not coming together the way that they played it up to be, the way that they hyped it up to be, with Jon Jones not being on the card.
Jon Jones has just blasted out at Dana White on Twitter for lying about his participation at the White House card and asked for immediate release.
Breaking news, because Jon Jones has just asked for his release from the UFC and Dana White. No more spins, no more games.
Well, the story is that Dana White announced the White House card recently, and he pushed back on Jon Jones's claim that negotiations were ongoing for the UFC White House card.
There is speculation, of course, that it's Jon Jones.
No, it's not.
Was Jon
Never, ever, ever, which I told you guys 100,000 times, was Jon Jones even remotely in my mind to fight at the White House. I wouldn't. First of all, I've told you why I wouldn't do it. And number two, some guy with, meta glasses on filmed him talking about his hips, that his hips are so bad. And I don't know if you guys saw that flag football game where he can barely run. Jon Jones he retired because of his hips. He's got arthritis in his hips. Add that on top of all the other reasons that I wouldn't. The Jon Jones thing is bullshit. I'm not saying they weren't talking to Jon Jones and that Jon Jones wasn't interested in the fight. And what was even crazier is Jon Jones came out and was like, I'm in negotiations right now for the White House fight, after I had already sent a text to his lawyer saying, never going to happen ever.
Is it fair to say then Jon Jones is retired and this is the end of his time?
Yes. Okay. Very fair.
Jon clarified that he and his team were actively negotiating for the fight. He explained that despite lowering his original asking price, the UFC's offer was far below expectations. Jones also pushed back on suggestions that his hip arthritis was a factor, stressing that the issue didn't prevent him from competing and that the low offer, not his health, kept him off the card. Jon Jones said, "Hey everyone, I wanted to address Dana White's comments from this past weekend because the truth matters to me and the fans. Dana, you were heated about why I'm not on the White House card, but let's clear something up. My team and I were actually negotiating with the UFC for that fight. Real negotiations. I even came down from my original number, and what was I offered in return? I was lowballed. Yes, I have arthritis in my hip and it's painful, but that doesn't mean I can't fight. So let me get this straight. If I had accepted the lowball offer, suddenly my hip would be fine and I'd be on the White House card? That doesn't make sense." Jon Jones confirms he underwent stem cell treatment last week and had training camp ready to start for the White House card. He criticizes the UFC for misrepresenting him publicly, calling out lowball offers despite his years of title defenses and contributions, and finds it frustrating to be labeled done while negotiations were still active. Jon Jones added, "I even received stem cell treatment last week to get ready for the White House card, and training camp was scheduled to start today. I was preparing to be ready. I understand business deals fall through sometimes, but going out publicly and saying things that aren't true isn't right. After everything I've given to the UFC, the years, the title defenses, the fights, hearing that I'm done is disappointing. Especially when, as recently as Friday, UFC was calling me trying to get me on that White House card for a much lower number." Jon Jones states that if the UFC truly believes he is finished, then they should release him from his contract immediately. He calls for an end to the back and forth and public narratives, making it clear he no longer wants any games surrounding his situation, while thanking fans who understand his side. Jon Jones stated, "If the UFC truly feels like I'm done, then I respectfully ask to be released from my contract today. No more spins, no more games. Thank you to the real fans who know what's up." Meanwhile, Chael Sonnen expresses sympathy for Jon Jones, pointing out that the former champion is dealing with physical issues at this stage of his career while still trying to compete at the highest level. He explains that Jones simply wanted a spot on the White House card and believes it's a difficult position for Jones, especially seeing opportunities go to others despite his past dominance, which makes the situation easier to understand from his perspective.
And when you're Jon Jones and you're 37, you're 38 years old, and you're coming out and you're saying, like, I can't do this, and I've got arthritis, and I got these problems in my hips, and it's just a tough spot. And I feel for him. He wanted on the White House card. To our knowledge that we've been given, and I understand that things are kept, but from our knowledge, that was all that he asked for. He did not come in with some $30 million price tag or something ridiculous, and I imagine there was a little bit of a pain in the ass behind the scenes, but he had still made an ask, and he's doing a number of great things. And a guy that he smoked in 4 minutes got the opportunity. I mean, I could feel for John in that spot. But what do you do?
Chael Sonnen points out that Jon Jones's situation is far more complex than it seems. He questions the logic of Jones competing for an interim title, emphasizing that it doesn't align with his stature in the sport. He adds that while the UFC could have framed it differently to make it work, the reality is clear. If Jones's conditions weren't met for a major fight, they're even less likely to be met for a lesser one.
It's a lot more complicated than you might think. Then are you going to tell me you're not going to put him in the interim? Like, does that sound right to you? Jon Jones fighting for the interim championship. Does that sound right to you? No, I don't think that you'd have done that. And you could have packaged it. You could have sold it so it's an interim title because Tom's out, and then that's good. We've got a guarantee that we got a 2-fight deal, and John's guaranteeing us that he's going to go into Tom. I mean, it's one of these tough things. Look, if John's demands were not met. And by the way, I don't take a pleasure in this. I gotta tell you, I'm not being my usual dick of a self. I come to you quite the opposite, but here's the cold hard truth. If Jon Jones's demands are not being met for the biggest fight in history, they're not gonna be met for the non-biggest fight in history.
However, Tom Aspinall questions why Jon Jones is not receiving the level of pay a fighter of his stature should command. He points out that athletes who have spent years headlining events and helping drive the sport's revenue deserve to be compensated accordingly. From his perspective, a figure with Jones's legacy should naturally be among the highest earners, making the situation difficult for him to understand.
Wow. Well, my reaction to that, and this is going to probably be crazy to a lot of people listening, but why is the UFC not giving Jon the respect he deserves financially? That's crazy to me. Well, if anyone should be getting paid a lot in this sport, it should be Jon Jones for the stuff that he's done. And that's me. That's me saying that.
Yeah.
After the history that I've had with Jon Jones.
Are you surprised they're not giving it to him?
Well, they offered him 30 million to fight me, so why have they not offered it again? I don't understand.
And you're probably a $25 million fighter.
I would hope so, but those guys who we're talking about, Conor McGregor and Jon Jones and guys like that, like they bring in the other guy. Those are the guys who brought in the revenue for over 10 years. They need to be getting paid what they deserve, in my opinion. I think the guys need to get their money ready for my fight. If we're talking about 25 million, I think
that was my idea.
25 mil, get it ready. Because I'm ready to get that.
Tom Aspinall also reacts with surprise to the UFC White House card, questioning why Jon Jones is not part of the event despite the expectations surrounding it. While acknowledging that the card still has strong matchups, he points out that he still has unfinished business with Ciryl Gane and remains focused on securing the fights that matter for his future.
She's there.
So surely him and Topuria.
It's got to be him and Topuria then, hasn't it? It's like he just woke up. What about Jon Jones? I thought Jon Jones was on it.
Where's he gone?
Where's he gone, John? So that's it, no prelims, just that.
Yeah.
One,
just
two.
whilst that plays out, what's your thoughts? Can you just put this down a tiny bit?
I thought they were going to do Topuria versus Makhachev, is what I thought. And then they were going to do Pereira versus Jones. I mean, they're still decent fights. They're still all right. I mean, they're still good fights, aren't they?
I have to ask you about that Pereira-Gane fight. If obviously Pereira wins, you all good with that?
Mate, I'm happy with any of them. There's still a bit of unfinished business there with me and Gane, so if Pereira wins, fight Pereira first, fight Gane next.
On the other hand, Ariel Helwani believes Jon Jones has a valid reason to feel frustrated about the situation. He argues that based on the current market for big fights, a superstar with Jones's legacy and drawing power should be commanding an enormous purse. In his view, fighters who have spent the last decade headlining events and building massive audiences and shaping the sport have set the financial standard for the entire industry. Helwani suggests that when lesser profile bouts are earning major paydays, it naturally raises expectations for the biggest names, especially someone with Jones's resume and long history at the top.
Jon Jones has every reason to be upset. In my opinion, Jon Jones is worth 30 million. If Conor Benn, with all due respect, is getting 15 to fight Regis Prograis in a catchweight fight, Jon Jones is worth 30 and Conor McGregor is worth 75. If that's the market value now, if that's the ceiling, then them dudes are worth a hell of a lot now and because of everything they did over the past 10 years or so. Like, Conor Benn, Jon Jones ain't the same as far as drawing power. I'm sorry. And as far as resumes. So what they've done now is that's the new number. Because all these fighters, the top ones, are saying, wait a second. And they're saying, yeah, you can have that number too. But the problem is, they all know that they're way bigger stars.
Ariel Helwani argues that the biggest stars in the sport know their true value and won't accept numbers that don't reflect their impact. He suggests that fighters with massive drawing power and long track records at the top are well aware of the revenue they generate. Because of that, Helwani believes they won't be easily convinced by offers that fall short of what their influence and history in the sport justify.
So I think they took these guys for fools or something like that. Because I can guarantee you they're going to come with that number to Conor McGregor and he's going to be like, what? Are you kidding? I could almost tell, I'm not even in the meeting and I could tell you this is going to happen. I mean, I think Conor Benn himself would agree with me. Would he not? Just in terms of what they've done and who they are and their track record and drawing power.
Wade Plemons suggests that Dana White's decision not to put Jon Jones on the White House card wasn't about his hip arthritis. Instead, he believes Dana viewed Jones as unreliable after the Tom Aspinall situation. Plemons points out that the UFC has previously allowed fighters to compete with injuries or other challenges, so protecting Jones's health wasn't the real issue. He argues the main reason Jones was left off the card ties to him turning down the Aspinall fight.
He said Jon was not going to be a part of the card. He said that Jon was unreliable, that he had trepidation about putting Jon in a main event after the Tom Aspinall situation. If that is the reason, that's what Dana should have said, which I think it still is the reason that Dana doesn't want to put on a Jon Jones fight. It isn't because Jon has arthritis in his hips. I have seen Dana trot out Stipe Miocic at 40 plus and looking like dog shit. For Jon Jones, as long as they can get out there, I've seen Dana allow Michael Bisping to fight with one eye for the back half of his career and become a champion with one eye. So I've seen fighters be compromised going into fights. I've seen Dana allow fighters to come in on 4 hours notice. Dan Ige, hello. And it isn't anything to do, in my opinion, with this hip arthritis thing. Like, Dana's not like, well, I'm just looking out for Jon and his hip problems. Bullshit. This is clear to me that the reason he didn't want Jon on this card is that he turned down Tom Aspinall, that he turned him down after Jon said he would fight Tom Aspinall for the $30 million.
On the other hand, the White House card is overall getting disliked from the MMA world. However, Ariel Helwani praises the White House card as an impressive event, emphasizing its strong matchups and overall appeal. He highlights the draws of Topuria and Pereira, noting that their presence elevates interest. Helwani also mentions that adding Kayla's title defense—
I think this is a very good card. Like, I said in my video, I give it a 9 out of 10. Like, in a vacuum, this is the best pay-per-view card that we've gotten in God knows when, right? In terms of the superstars. But it's because the expectations were put here that some people, by the time June 14th rolls around, everyone's going to be going gaga. You've got Ilya and Alex on the same card. Crazy. Alex trying to make history. Ilya finally coming back almost a year to the date of his last fight. Justin looked great in his last fight. And then you sprinkle in Sean O'Malley and all these guys like that. Compare that to tonight's card. Compare that to the Sydney pay-per-view. Compare that to January 24th.
No,
Kayla should have been on this card. There's two surprises. Well, not surprises. Kayla should have been on the card, but she's just on 100%, and that's a bummer. And the Gable Steveson, I was told that was discussed to have him debut on this card. Two-time Olympic gold medalist.
Oh,
he's not on the card. That would have been kind of.
That would have been great.
So.
Okay, what about?
Fans wanted to see both Jon Jones and McGregor on this card, but it didn't happen. Meanwhile, Dana White confirms that talks with McGregor are still in progress, but emphasizes that no official timeline has been set for his return to the octagon.
Is there any update on when or if he'll fight again?
No. But we are definitely talking to Conor, obviously.
But there's no like timetable. You just okay.
Not even close.
However, Conor McGregor argues that the UFC tends to sideline him from major events like the White House card, claiming they rely on his drawing power to drive revenue on smaller or secondary shows instead.
You want me to engage in secondary sales? They don't usually put me on UFC 200 or 300 or the Sphere. They usually put me on UFC 201 or 301. You know, like a double sale thing. That's the White House is going to hit no matter what. Who the fuck gives a do we put on it? And then wheel McGregor out for the second one. So we double our economic take. We can't decide what these men do. you know, and I don't want to. I don't doubt them. It's like in this current climate, we're all cattle, yeah? All these fighters, we're all cattle. I just happen to be free range. I'm like Wagyu walking around the fucking farm.
Conor shares that he was originally scheduled to face Michael Chandler at the White House event, but the UFC repeatedly altered the plans and presented him with varying offers.
So, as I was aware, it was the White House. I was up for the White House. I know the administration was strong for me to be in the White House. It was McGregor versus Chandler. The story was built in. Chandler's a stand-up guy. He's electric in the cage. He comes to bring it. I'm the Mac. It would have been dynamite. Somewhere down the line, not me ever saying no or hey ho, not enough money or no, nothing. Just, maybe we're gonna go with you for international fight week. Okay, no problem. Maybe we're gonna leave Chandler. I do like Chandler. I must have been preparing for him for the last few years. He deserves to go after the waiting, and it would be a great fight. It gets me back in there, but they veered off it. I'm not gonna be too picky. I have to get back. I'm eager to get back. I've been out and loved myself. So, okay, sorry, Chandler, it is what it is. What weight, Conor, are you gonna do? I'm gonna do 170, as you know. I'm a big boy, a lot bigger than before. Okay, well, we're gonna offer you this opponent. Yes, no problem, I accept. Day after day after day. No problem, we'll send the contract. Excellent, it's a great matchup. That's a great matchup. That's a great matchup. That's all you'll ever hear about out of me. And no contract came. And that's kind of where I'm at. Still here in this limbo. I know my manager is out there in Las Vegas on Monday, face-to-face meeting. I hope a respectable offer comes through. I'm notoriously good to deal with. I'm an honest man. I admire fairness. I'm sure we can get it done. And there you go. I assume the vibes I'm getting, and I don't mind it at all, is the BMF contest, which is on this week, a rematch between Holloway and Oliveira. Maybe it's me and that for the next one. So we will see. It's all taking shape. There's so much happening in the fight world. Like, it's actually incredible what's going on in the fight world. It's a great time to be a fight fan.
So that's all we have from today's video, and hopefully you have enjoyed it. Share your thoughts in the comments section and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos.